It was one of those easy Saturdays when the whole neighborhood drifts toward the smell of grilled burgers. I stood by the barbecue flipping patties of beer, sweating beside me. For once, I actually felt relaxed. My wife, Kara, had taken over the patio table, her laughter carrying above the chatter. 3 glasses of wine in, she was animated and charming until she wasn't. I didn't catch the beginning of her story, only the punchline. Seriously, who wants to trade husband's mind's low maintenance and comes with zero ambition? The laughter died before it began. A few people shifted their weight, pretending to check their phones. I stared at the grill, forcing a smile that didn't reach anywhere near my eyes. Then Nora, our divorced neighbor, called out with a grin, "I'll take him. Sounds perfect. When should I pick him up?" The yard froze again. Kara blinked, realizing too late that she'd gone too far. "Nora, you're kidding, right?" "Not at all," Nora replied lightly. "I like men who don't need constant fixing." That was it. I set the spatula down and walked over my pulse loud in my ears. "Well, honey," I said, "thanks for the marketing. Should I start packing, or do you want to help me load the truck?" Gasps, nervous laughs. Kara's face drained of color. "Ethan, come on, it was a joke." "Was it?" I asked. "Because Nora seems pretty serious. And after your glowing review, I think she's getting a good deal." "You're being ridiculous," she muttered. "Am I? You just told 20 people your husband has no ambition. Sounds clear enough." She grabbed my arm. "Can we talk privately? Why you didn't mind going public a minute ago?" Nora crossed her arms, still smiling. "Offer stands." Kara glared. "This is between me and my husband." I shook my head. "You made it everyone's business when you decided to auction me off." The crowd stayed silent. Even the music had stopped. For the first time, Kara looked genuinely lost. "We'll talk at home," she whispered. "I think you already said everything." Her eyes hardened. "Fine. Choose me or them." I looked around at the people still holding half-eaten burgers, unsure where to look. That's an interesting ultimatum from someone who just said I'm not worth keeping. She spun toward the guests. "Party's over." People scattered fast. Within minutes, the yard was empty. Inside, the quiet felt heavier than the heat outside. Kara dropped her wine glass in the sink, shards clinking. "What was that performance?" "That I said hanging up my keys was what happens when you try to humiliate your husband in public." "It was just a joke." "Was it funny?" I asked, because nobody laughed except Nora. Her eyes flashed. "Don't bring up that woman. She's pathetic." "Maybe. But at least she saw something worth defending. You saw entertainment." "You embarrassed me." I stared at her. "I embarrassed you?" "You stood in our yard and called me lazy in front of everyone. But sure, let's make me the villain." Her voice shook now. "You know I didn't mean it." "Then what did you mean?" "Because everyone there heard you say I'm a disappointment." She crossed her arms. "You're twisting this." "No," I said softly. I'm finally hearing it clearly. She opened her mouth, then shut it again. "For years," I continued, "I've brushed off the little jabs, the sarcasm, the way you roll your eyes when I talk about my job. I told myself it was just stress. But tonight, you said out loud what you've been thinking all along. You're overreacting." "Maybe, or maybe I'm done underreacting. I picked up a beer mostly to give my hand something to do. You've been disrespecting me for so long you think it's normal." "You're my husband," she said quietly. "Am I 5 minutes ago you were giving me away?" She looked at me, searching for the version of me who would back down. That version was gone. "What do you want me to do?" she asked finally. "Start by not treating me like a punchline." I set the beer on the counter. "Because I'm done being the joke." "Ethan, if you can't understand that, then maybe Nora's offer isn't the worst thing I've heard today." Her eyes widened. "You wouldn't. Try me." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The refrigerator hummed, the ceiling fan ticked. Then she looked away. "You're sleeping where tonight?" "Guest room." "You can't be serious." "I am." I walked upstairs without looking back. Behind me, I heard her start to cry. The sound used to undo me. Tonight it didn't. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small or foolish. I just felt done. The next morning, the house felt like a waiting room, quiet, uncomfortable, full of things unsaid. The smell of last night's barbecue still clung to the curtains, mixed with the faint bitterness of wine from the sink where Kara had left her glass. I sat at the kitchen table, nursing a cup of coffee, trying not to replay every second from the night before. But memory has its own gravity, it keeps pulling you back. At 7:30, Kara came downstairs. Her hair was brushed, her expression calm, but tight like she'd practiced it in the mirror. She set down a plate of eggs and toast in front of me. "Peace offering," she said. I stared at the plate. "You didn't have to. I wanted to." She sat across from me, hands clasped. "I was drunk." I said something stupid. "Drunk," I said quietly, "doesn't create new thoughts. It just removes filters." She flinched but tried to hold her ground. It was supposed to be funny. Everyone jokes like that sometimes. "Jokes are fine," I said. "Public humiliation isn't." She sighed. "You really think I meant it?" I met her eyes. "I think you've been meaning it for years. Last night you finally said it out loud." Her jaw tightened. "So what, you're done now?" "One bad night and that's it." "Kara," I said, "that wasn't one night. That was a highlight reel. It's been sarcasm, digs, eye rolls, death by 1,000 small cuts. Last night was just the grand finale." She looked away, blinking fast. "You're making it sound worse than it was." "Was it good?" I asked, because it didn't feel good standing there. We sat in silence for a long time. Outside, a lawnmower started 2 houses over. I almost laughed how normal the world stayed while mine was shifting. Then, as if on cue, the doorbell rang. Kara frowned. "Who's that this early?" When I opened the door, it was Nora Jean's messy bun holding a travel mug. "Morning," she said. "I came to apologize if I made things awkward last night." Kara appeared behind me, arms crossed. Too late for that. Nora kept her tone polite. "You were making a joke." I made one back. Sorry if it landed wrong. I could feel Kara's stare burning holes through both of us. "You can leave now," she said. Nora raised a brow. "You sure I was just being neighborly? I thought maybe you two could use an extra coffee." I said we're fine, Kara snapped. I stepped in before it turned into another scene. "Thanks, Nora. We appreciate it." Nora nodded at me. "Well, the offer still stands. If you ever want a trade-in deal, my porch is open." Then she winked and left. Kara slammed the door. "She's disgusting." "She didn't start this," I said. "She humiliated me." "No," I said evenly, "you did that yourself." She just answered the ad. Her eyes blazed. "You're defending her now." "I'm not defending anyone. I'm pointing out that last night didn't happen in a vacuum. You've been talking down to me for years, Kara." I just stopped pretending not to notice. She threw her hands up. "You think you're perfect. You think working some average job and grilling burgers makes you a saint." "No," I said, "but it makes me stable. And apparently stability's not enough for you." Her voice rose. "I wanted more for us. I wanted ambition drive something." "What you wanted," I said quietly, "was control. You wanted a man you could reshape until he looked like your idea of success." "That's not true." "Then tell me what you respect about me. Not what I do for you, what you actually respect." She hesitated. For a moment, she said nothing. "Then you're dependable." "That's not respect," I said. "That's a description of furniture." She blinked. "You're twisting my words." "No, I'm hearing them clearly for once." We sat there in the echo of that sentence. Then softly she said, "I don't want to lose you." I looked at her, really looked. The same woman I'd married, but now wrapped in layers of resentment and fear. "Then stop treating me like someone you've already lost." She didn't answer. She just stood and started clearing plates that weren't empty, moving them with quick, sharp gestures. When she reached for my cup, I stopped her. "I need space today," I said. Her eyes flashed again, but the fight was gone. "Fine. Go take your walk or whatever it is you do to make yourself feel like the victim." I didn't reply. I grabbed my jacket and stepped outside. The air was cool, clean. For the first time in months, I let myself walk without checking my phone, without thinking about what mood I'd find when I got home. Halfway down the block, I saw Nora watering her front garden. She looked up and gave me a small nod, not flirty, not smug, just understanding. I nodded back and kept walking. By the time I reached the end of the street, I'd realized something simple. I wasn't angry anymore. Not exactly. What I felt was tired. Tired of defending myself. Tired of being treated like the punchline to a joke I didn't tell. When I came home an hour later, Kara was gone. Her purse and car keys were missing, the house still. On the table, she'd left a note. "I need time to think. Don't do anything stupid." I read it twice, then set it down next to the empty coffee cup she hadn't washed. For once, I didn't feel panic. I didn't feel guilt. I just felt free. By the time the sun went down that evening, I still hadn't heard from Kara. Her car was gone, her phone silent. The house for once felt peaceful. I grilled a simple dinner, ate alone on the porch, and tried not to think about what came next. Around 9, my phone buzzed a text from an unknown number. "Hope you're okay after last night. If you need someone to talk to, I'm right next door. Nora." I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed back, "Appreciate it. I'm fine." I wasn't, of course, but the truth felt too heavy to text. The next morning, I was halfway through my coffee when I heard footsteps outside. A light knock followed. I opened the door to find Nora standing there holding 2 mugs. "Peace offering round 2, she said. "You're persistent," I said, smiling despite myself. "Just neighborly," she replied, stepping inside when I gestured. "I figured you could use caffeine and a reality check." I chuckled. "Guess I earned that." She looked around the kitchen. "She's not home. Not yet. Probably giving herself time to decide how much of this is my fault." Nora leaned against the counter. "You handled it better than I would have. If my husband ever said that about me, I'd have thrown the wine bottle instead of just the joke." "Yeah, well, I said I'm more of a slow burn guy." She smiled. "That's the problem, Ethan. People like you burn slow so others think they can keep throwing matches." Her words hit harder than I wanted them to. Before I could respond, I heard a car pull into the driveway. The engine cut off, the door slammed. "Uh-oh," Nora murmured. "Here comes round 2. Kara burst through the door a moment later, still in her office clothes, though I knew she hadn't been at work in months. Her expression froze when she saw Nora. "What is she doing here?" I stayed calm. She brought coffee. Kara's voice dripped with sarcasm. "How thoughtful." "Actually," Nora said pleasantly, "I was making sure your husband was still alive after your little roast." Kara shot her a glare that could melt steel. "You don't belong in my house." Nora didn't flinch. "Funny you didn't seem to mind offering to give it away yesterday." "Get out," Kara snapped. I set down my mug. "You both need to stop." Kara turned to me, voice sharp. "You're defending her now." "I'm defending basic decency," I said. "Nora didn't embarrass you, you did that yourself." "I was joking." "Kara, everyone was there." "It wasn't a joke. It was a moment where you showed exactly what you think of me." Her eyes flicked between us, panic creeping in. "You think she's your savior now, she's just lonely and desperate." Nora gave a dry laugh. "If that's supposed to insult me, you'll have to try harder." "Stop," Kara yelled. "This isn't funny." "It never was," I said quietly. The 3 of us stood there in a triangle of silence, the air thick enough to choke on. Finally, Nora placed her empty mug on the counter. "Well, I think I've overstayed my welcome." "You think?" Kara spat. "Relax," Nora said, unfazed. "I'm leaving. But before I do, Ethan, you deserve someone who doesn't treat you like a sidekick in your own marriage." Kara looked at me, disbelief in her voice. "You're just going to let her talk to me like that?" I met her eyes. "You already said worse." Nora gave me a small nod and walked out the door. Kara waited until she was gone, then turned on me. "You've humiliated me twice in 2 days." I couldn't help but laugh, not because it was funny, but because of how backwards it sounded. "You humiliated yourself, Kara. I just stopped covering for it." Her hands trembled. "You think you're some kind of victim." "No," I said. "I think I've been patient. Too patient." She paced the kitchen. "You're not leaving me for her. This isn't about Nora. It is. She's been waiting for you to crack." "This is about respect," I said firmly, "and how I haven't seen any from you in years." She froze, and for a second I saw fear not of losing me, but of losing control. "You wouldn't really leave," she said softly. "You don't have it in you." I looked at her steadily. "Try me." The color drained from her face. That night she slept in the master bedroom. I stayed on the couch, staring at the ceiling until dawn. When I finally got up, the house was spotless. Kara was at the stove in her best apron hair, perfect, humming a tune. The smell of pancakes filled the air. "Morning," she said sweetly. "I made breakfast." I leaned on the counter. "You don't cook breakfast." She shrugged. "Maybe I should start." "What's the game, Kara?" Her tone turned soft. "No game." I thought we could start over. I picked up a fork and tried a bite. It was good, too good. "So this is how it's going to be. Every time you cross the line, you bake your way back." Her eyes glistened. "I'm trying, Ethan," I sighed. "If you were really trying, you'd stop performing and start listening." Before she could respond, another knock came at the door. Kara's shoulders stiffened. "Don't," she warned. I opened it anyway. There stood Nora holding a small paper bag. Sorry to interrupt. I ran out of sugar yesterday. Mind if I borrow some? Kara's face went pale. You've got to be kidding me. I stepped aside. Come in. You're not serious, Kara whispered. Just being neighborly, I said. As Nora stepped inside, smiling politely, I realized something. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of Kara's anger. And that small realization changed everything. The kitchen felt like a stage that morning, Kara behind the stove, Nora near the counter, and me caught in the middle pretending this was still my house. The smell of pancakes and coffee couldn't hide the tension. Kara's voice broke first. We were just having a private conversation. Were we, I asked, pouring Nora a cup of coffee, because I thought we were done talking. Nora smiled politely. I didn't mean to interrupt. I really did come for sugar. Of course, I said, help yourself. Kara slammed a spatula on the counter. Ethan, this isn't funny. I agree, Nora said, settling at the table. Yesterday wasn't funny either. Kara's glare could have cracked glass. You have a lot of nerve. Nora shrugged. Maybe. But after last night, I'd say honesty's overdue. Honesty, Kara snapped. You barely know us. I know enough, Nora said calmly. I saw a wife humiliate her husband in public, then pretend it was a joke. And now I'm watching her try to fix it with breakfast. I took a sip of coffee, saying nothing. Kara turned to me. Are you going to let her talk to me like this? I looked up. Why not? You didn't mind talking about me in front of 20 people. You're twisting this again. Am I? I asked quietly. Or are you just hearing your own words for once? For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Nora said softly, Kara, can I ask you something? No. I'm going to anyway. What exactly do you bring to this marriage? Kara froze. Excuse me. It's a simple question, Nora continued. You've made it clear Ethan's not ambitious enough for you. You've criticized his job, his habits, his life. So what do you contribute? Kara's face flushed. I'm his wife. That's a title, Nora said, not a contribution. The silence that followed was brutal. Kara tried to collect herself. I take care of the house. Nora tilted her head. Do you work? I'm between jobs right now. For how long? Kara glanced at me, hoping I'd bail her out. I didn't. 18 months, I said. Nora raised an eyebrow. 18 months, huh? And you're criticizing him for lacking ambition. That's different, Kara protested. How Nora asked, gently. Because you're waiting for the right opportunity. Kara's hands shook. This is none of your business. You made it everyone's business, I said, when you tried to trade me off in the backyard. Nora leaned back, arms crossed. She's right, Ethan. You're being too nice about it. The truth is she doesn't respect you. She's embarrassed by you. Kara turned on me, eyes wet. You believe her over me? I met her gaze. I believe what I've been living. She blinked fast, desperate to regain control. You think she actually cares about you? She's a bored divorcee looking for attention? Maybe, I said. But she still managed to treat me better in 3 conversations than you have in years. That landed. Kara went pale. This is insane, she whispered. You're letting her drive a wedge between us. There was already a wedge, I said. You just didn't see it because you were standing on the other side. Kara laughed bitterly. You think this is all my fault? I think it takes effort to destroy respect, I said, and you've been very consistent. Nora stood. Maybe I should go. I didn't mean to start a war. I shook my head. No, stay. You're the only one in this room being honest. Kara slammed her palm on the table. Enough. You want to know why I said what I said? Because I'm tired, Ethan. I'm tired of watching other people move forward while we sit here in this mediocre life. Middle class, I said. You mean the house we own, the car? You drive the weekends we spend not worrying about bills? Yes, she said, tears spilling. We could have more. At what cost, I asked. You want more money, more titles, more everything except gratitude. That's not fair. It's exactly fair, I said. You measure our worth by comparison. I measure it by peace. You can't see that because you've forgotten what peace feels like. She sank into a chair, hands shaking. You make it sound like I'm the villain. I don't have to, I said. You did the work yourself. Nora exhaled. You know I used to think my marriage failed because my ex stopped loving me. Now I think it failed because he stopped respecting me. You don't realize how rare that is until it's gone. Kara glared at her through tears. You can keep your opinions. I plan to, Nora said, standing, and just so you know, the offer still stands. Kara shot up. Get out! Nora smiled faintly. Already am. When the door closed behind her, the house felt hollow. Kara turned back to me, her voice breaking. Please don't let her come between us. She didn't, I said. You did that when you made me feel small for the last time. Her eyes filled with panic. You don't mean that? I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time saw a stranger. I think I finally do. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. I walked past her, grabbed my keys, and headed for the door. I need to clear my head. Where are you going? She called after me. I paused in the doorway. Somewhere I don't have to defend existing. Then I left her standing there in the smell of burned pancakes and regret. I drove aimlessly for nearly 2 hours that afternoon, windows down, music off. The quiet was better company than the noise inside my head. Every street looked the same, peaceful homes, trimmed lawns, couples walking dogs. None of them had any idea that somewhere between 2 cul-de-sacs a marriage was quietly collapsing. When I finally pulled back into the driveway, Kara's car was already there. The curtains were drawn, but I could see her silhouette pacing the living room. I took a deep breath before stepping inside. She was waiting for me, eyes red, notebook in hand. I made a list, she said softly, of everything I appreciate about you. I nodded slowly. All right, let's hear it. She opened the notebook, voice trembling. You work hard. You pay the bills. You're reliable. You don't cheat. You help around the house. I held up a hand. Stop. What? Do you hear yourself? I asked. Every single thing you just listed is about what I do for you, not who I am. She frowned. I don't understand the difference. I know, I said quietly. And that's the problem. Her eyes filled with tears. Ethan, please. I'm trying. Tell me what you want me to say. I don't want you to say anything. I want you to mean something. She sat down, clutching the notebook like a shield. I'll change. I can fix this. No, Kara, I said. You'll apologize for a week, maybe 2. Then the next time you're bored or frustrated, you'll use me as a punching bag again. She looked horrified. You really think that little of me? I think I've finally learned to stop expecting more than you can give. She slammed the notebook shut. So what now? You're leaving me for that woman? This isn't about Nora, I said calmly. It's about respect. She's the one who filled your head with all this. No, Kara. She just said out loud what I've been too afraid to admit. Her voice cracked. You're throwing away 8 years of marriage. I shook my head. No. You threw it away when you stopped seeing me as your partner and started seeing me as your prop. She grabbed my arm, desperate now. Please don't do this. I don't have anywhere to go. I looked her straight in the eye. That's not my problem anymore. She went still, the color draining from her face. You don't mean that. I do. I walked upstairs, pulled 2 suitcases from the closet, and started packing her things. Clothes, shoes, cosmetics, all the pieces of a life we'd built together, suddenly just objects with no meaning. Kara followed me, voice trembling. You can't just throw me out. Watch me. This is my home. No, I said firmly. It's our house. But your name isn't on the deed, remember? Her eyes filled with panic. Where am I supposed to go? Your sister, your mom, a friend, a hotel? I don't care. She stepped in front of me, tears streaming. Ethan, please. I'll get a job. I'll contribute. I'll prove it to you. You should do that, I said. But not for me, for yourself. I carried the suitcases downstairs and set them near the door. She followed, shaking. What about everything we promised, for better or worse? I turned to face her. This is the worse. And I'm done pretending it's going to get better. She sank onto the couch, sobbing. You're really doing this? I am. At that moment, my phone buzzed. A text from Nora. Everything okay? Saw your car's back. Just checking in. Kara noticed. Is that her? Yeah. Delete it. I laughed once. Why would I do that? Because I'm your wife. The same wife who tried to give me away 2 nights ago. That was different, she shouted. No, I said softly. That was honest. I started toward the stairs again. You have until tomorrow morning to pack. She stood, voice shaking. And then what? Then you figure out how to be an adult again. This isn't fair, she whispered. Neither was spending 8 years being told I wasn't enough. Her shoulders slumped. You'll regret this. The only thing I regret, I said, is waiting this long. For a long moment, she just stared at me like she was trying to memorize my face before everything changed. Then she grabbed one of the suitcases, dragged it outside, and slammed the door behind her. I watched through the window as she loaded her things into the car, still shaking, still muttering something I couldn't hear. Then the engine roared to life and she was gone. The silence that followed was different this time. It wasn't heavy, it was clean. A knock came at the door. I opened it to find Nora standing there again, holding a grocery bag. "Sorry," she said softly. I saw her leave. "You okay?" I leaned against the doorway, exhausted. "Better than I've been in years." She smiled gently. "Good. That took guts." "No," I said. "It took remembering I had some." She laughed quietly. "Fair enough. You hungry? I brought food." I hesitated, then stepped aside. "Come in." As she walked into the kitchen, I noticed how natural it felt. No tension, no eggshells, no guessing which version of her I'd wake up to tomorrow. For the first time in years, the house didn't feel like a battlefield. It felt like mine. 3 weeks passed. Long enough for the dust to settle, but not long enough for the neighbors to stop whispering. I could feel it when I mowed the lawn or took out the trash. The curious glances, the quiet pity, the unspoken question. Was it worth it? Yes, every second of it. I was grilling again that Saturday the same as before. Same backyard, same grill, same smell of burgers, only this time the silence wasn't awkward. It was peaceful. Nora stood beside me, tossing a salad. "You realize you've officially become the talk of the neighborhood," she teased. "Oh, I'm aware," I said, flipping a patty. "Half of them think I'm heartless. The other half think I'm their hero. And which side do you believe?" "Neither," I said with a shrug. "I just think I finally stopped being a doormat." She smiled, handing me the tongs. "Well, for what it's worth, I think you made the right call. Even if it looks messy. Especially because it looks messy," she said. "Growth always does." We shared a quiet laugh. For once, I wasn't waiting for the next argument or apology. It was just easy. Kara had come by twice since the split. The first time she picked up her remaining boxes. The second time she stood in the doorway crying, saying she'd started a job at Target that she was trying to change. I'd listened politely, but the words fell flat. That afternoon, the doorbell rang again. Nora and I exchanged a glance. "Want me to get it?" she asked. "No, I'll handle it," I said, wiping my hands. Through the peephole, I saw Kara, hair unwashed, eyes swollen, wearing the same clothes as the last visit. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. "What do you need, Kara?" She took a shaky breath. "I got a job. I'm working. I'm trying, Ethan. Please, can we just talk?" "About what?" I asked. "Us," she whispered. "I made one mistake, one stupid joke, and you threw away 8 years. It wasn't one joke," I said. "It was 8 years of small ones that you never thought mattered. The barbecue was just the first time you had an audience." Her voice trembled. "I'll do anything. I'll go to therapy. I'll sign whatever you want. Just don't give up on me." "There's nothing left to give up on." She blinked hard, trying to keep her composure. "So this is it? You're choosing her over me?" I shook my head. "I'm choosing peace over chaos, respect over insults, appreciation over control." Tears welled in her eyes. "You'll regret it," I sighed. "Maybe I'll miss the version of you I thought I married, but I won't regret finding myself again." Behind me, I could hear Nora moving quietly in the kitchen. Kara noticed, and her face hardened. "She's already here. She's my neighbor," I said evenly, "and my friend." Her lip quivered. "She's not better than me." "She is," I said simply, "because she sees value in what you threw away." For a second, I thought she might slap me. But instead, she whispered, "I never meant for it to end like this." "Yes, you did," I said softly. "You just never expected consequences." Her eyes filled again, and she stepped back. "The neighbors all hate me now." "That's not my problem," I said gently. "Maybe you should ask yourself why." Then, as she started to cry again, I closed the door. I stood there for a moment, listening to the sound of her muffled sobs fade down the driveway. And for the second time, I didn't feel guilty. Just done. Nora appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands on a towel. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said. "Perfect, actually." "Liar," she said softly. "Maybe a little," I admitted. "But it's easier than I thought." She smiled and walked closer. "Good. Because you deserve to be happy, Ethan. So do you." "I am," she said simply. "For the first time in years, I'm with someone who listens, who laughs, who doesn't make me feel small." I looked at her, the same neighbor who had turned an awkward joke into a lifeline. Funny how it all started with a barbecue. "Funny," she said with a smirk. She gift-wrapped the perfect man and handed him to me. I just said yes. I laughed. Maybe I should thank her. "Maybe we both should," she said. That evening, we sat together on the back porch watching the sunset. The sky burned orange and gold like the world itself was giving me permission to move on. My phone buzzed. A text from Nora's ex-husband. "Heard you upgraded. Good for you." Nora showed it to me with a grin. "Guess word travels fast." I chuckled. "Upgraded, huh?" She nodded. "From a man who took me for granted to one who doesn't make me apologize for existing. Yeah, I'd call that an upgrade." I put my arm around her. The feeling's mutual. We sat there until the stars came out, two people who'd both been broken in different ways, finally finding something real. And as I watched the last traces of daylight fade, I realized something simple. Sometimes it takes being traded like a joke to remember your own worth. Kara thought she was losing her husband to a neighbor, but the truth was she lost him long before the day she stopped saying thank you, the day she forgot what love actually sounds like. That night, as Nora leaned her head on my shoulder, I finally understood what peace feels like. Not loud, not dramatic, just still. And in that quiet, I knew I'd made the right choice. Here's the next story. Tuesday began like any other until I opened my laptop. At the top of my inbox sat an email titled Important. Please read. The sender was my wife, Mara. "I've made the difficult decision to file for divorce. I need space to figure out my life and what I want moving forward. Please respect my decision and give me the space I'm asking for. I'll be staying with my sister for the foreseeable future. We can discuss details later when emotions aren't running so high." Sent at 6:47 a.m. while I was still asleep down the hall. No conversation, no warning, just a digital exit. I stared at the screen, then typed one word back, "Perfect." No period, no emotion, just final. If she wanted to turn our marriage into a business transaction, then I'd handle it like one. So I called my attorney, Riley. He answered on the first ring. "Forward me that email," he said. "She's documented voluntary separation. You need to act fast. Protect your assets, document everything." Within minutes, I did exactly that. Half of our savings went into a new individual account. Perfectly legal, perfectly traceable. I rerouted my paycheck, backed up bank statements, and labeled the folder Dissolution. Then I called HR. "Remove my spouse from insurance and beneficiary listings," I said calmly. The rep hesitated, probably expecting emotion, but I was past that. By lunchtime, every joint tie was cleanly separated, even our Netflix account. Petty maybe, but changing that password felt like closing the last unlocked door. When my phone buzzed, it was Mara's sister, Nora. "She's really upset you haven't called." I replied, "She asked for space. I'm giving it to her." Another text came through. "Cold don't be cold, she's emotional. So am I?" I wrote, but only one of us sent a resignation email. That evening, I ordered takeout from my favorite steakhouse, one she always complained was too heavy. I poured a beer and turned on Monday Night Football. For the first time in months, there were no sighs, no tension about the TV volume. The house felt peaceful. Around 9 p.m., Nora texted again. "Maybe you should call her. She's an adult who made an adult decision," I answered. "I'm respecting it." I slept well that night, something I hadn't done in weeks. By morning, Mara texted, "We should talk." I forwarded it straight to Riley. At 10 a.m., sitting in his office, I slid my phone across the desk. He smiled slightly. "She's realizing divorce isn't as easy as writing an email," he said. "From now on, tell her all communication goes through me." So I did. "Please contact my attorney regarding any divorce-related matters." Clean, professional, exactly her tone. 2 days later, a process server confirmed she'd been officially served. Everything was moving faster than I expected. People at work asked how I was holding up. "Like a business dissolution," I said. She wanted formality. I'm giving her formality. Relief surprised me. For months, our home had been filled with small arguments and bigger silences. Her email strangely gave me permission to stop pretending everything could still be fixed. This isn't what I wanted. Thursday morning, Riley called. Her lawyer wants a meeting. Apparently there are misunderstandings. I almost laughed. The misunderstanding being that words have consequences. Exactly, he said. She's learning that space has a legal definition. Friday afternoon, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. "Mr. Cole, this is Attorney Johnson representing your wife. We need to discuss some urgent matters." "All communication goes through my attorney," I said. "Please wait." She didn't realize her email constitutes legal abandonment of the marital home. Combined with your financial separation, she's jeopardized her rights. That's unfortunate, I said. Have your client call my attorney. He tried again, but I ended the call. Saturday morning, I saw her car pull into the driveway. She got out, tried her key, and frowned when it didn't fit. After knocking twice, she waited. When I opened the door, I stood in the frame. You need something. We need to talk. This has gotten out of hand. You asked for space, I said. I gave it to you. You filed for divorce. I followed through. I didn't mean for it to become this, a legal war. You sent an email like a corporate memo. I treated it like one. Can I come in? It's still my house. Not according to your message, I said. I'll be staying with my sister for the foreseeable future. Those were your words. She sighed. I was upset. Then maybe a phone call would have been smarter than documentation. Her phone rang. I could hear her attorney's voice faintly through the receiver. Don't say anything else. Come to my office. She looked down, defeated. This isn't what I wanted. Then maybe next time say what you want, not what you don't. She left without another word. I called Riley right after. He laughed softly. Every action she takes now builds your case. Stay calm, stay documented. That night I noticed how light the air in the house felt. The silence was no longer sharp. It was clean. I brewed coffee and thought about how many times we'd fought over nothing. Dishes, dinner plans, the thermostat. Maybe those were symptoms of something deeper, her slow withdrawal from the life we built. By Monday, I felt something I hadn't expected. Certainty. Not anger, not heartbreak, just clarity. Her space had boundaries now, legal, financial, emotional, and for the first time I realized I could breathe inside them. Because sometimes the most peaceful moment of your life is when the person who constantly disturbed your peace finally walks away. And sometimes all it takes to reclaim yourself is to stop replying to chaos and start replying simply perfect. By Wednesday morning, the silence had become routine. No calls, no texts, just the faint echo of a life on pause. At 9:30 a.m., my attorney Riley called. Her lawyer reached out again, he said. They want to schedule a formal meeting to clarify intent. I almost smiled. You mean she's starting to realize what space actually costs? Exactly. You followed her written request to the letter. That makes your position airtight. He paused. Cole, you did the smart thing. You didn't lash out, didn't get emotional. That first email, that's her undoing. It's abandonment on record. Abandonment, a cold word, but it fit. When you send a goodbye like a business memo, you don't get to rewrite the tone later. Thursday morning, I woke up to another text from her sister, Nora. Mara's been crying all week. Can't you just meet her halfway? I didn't respond. Halfway was the problem. I'd been meeting her halfway for years while she stood still. Later that day, Riley emailed me a calendar invite meeting, Friday, 2:00 p.m., divorce proceedings. When I arrived, the conference room looked like something out of a financial negotiation. Chrome chairs, frosted glass, a water pitcher no one touched. Mara sat across the table, her lawyer beside her. She looked tired, but polished hair done makeup, careful posture rehearsed. The same way she looked at every party where we pretended we were fine. My client, her lawyer began, was in a heightened emotional state when she sent that email. She'd like to reframe her actions as a temporary separation, not abandonment. Riley leaned forward slightly, voice calm but sharp. Her exact words were, I've made the decision to file for divorce and I'll be staying with my sister for the foreseeable future. Those aren't the words of someone taking a break. That's a declaration. Mara broke in. It wasn't supposed to get this far. I just needed some time. You got it, I said quietly, every hour of it. She flinched. You didn't have to make it so formal. You started formal, I replied. I just kept up. The rest of the meeting was mechanical. Her lawyer talked about emotional distress, reconciliation, mutual good faith. Riley countered with time-stamped statements and legal definitions. Every word she'd typed had consequences. When it ended, we stood in the hallway, two strangers who used to share a toothbrush cup. You really think this is what you want, she asked. I didn't ask for this, I said. You did. I just stopped fighting the inevitable. She didn't have an answer. Friday night, I grilled a simple dinner and sat outside on the patio. The air was cool, the street quiet. It hit me that peace doesn't always feel good at first. It feels empty. But empty is better than chaotic. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Mr. Cole, this is Attorney Johnson representing your wife. I'd like to speak directly about a few developments. All communication goes through my lawyer, I said again. He hesitated. Your wife didn't realize her email established legal abandonment. Combined with your financial moves, she's lost several rights. We need to resolve this quickly. Have your client contact mine, I repeated. This can't wait. It already waited 4 days while she was enjoying her space, I said, and hung up. Then I called Riley. He sounded almost amused. Her attorney's panicking. She accidentally gave you the upper hand before the divorce even started. So what now? Now we let her experience the process she chose. Saturday morning, a car door slammed in the driveway. Through the window, I saw her standing there, arms folded, keys dangling uselessly. She tried to unlock the door. It didn't work. Then came the knock, sharp, insistent. I opened the door halfway. Can I help you? We need to talk, she said. This is going too far. You asked for space. I'm giving it to you. I didn't mean for it to get legal. That's what happens when you send official documentation, I said. I just needed time to think. And I gave you exactly what you asked for. Her tone changed. Can I come in? You moved out, remember staying with your sister for the foreseeable future? Your words. This is ridiculous. Maybe, but it's what you wrote. Her phone rang. Her lawyer again. I heard him through the speaker, don't say anything else. Her face crumpled. This isn't what I wanted. Then you should have said what you wanted before you hit send. She stood there quiet, like she was waiting for me to rescue her. But I was done being her emotional safety net. When she left, I closed the door slowly, not slamming it, not angry, just final. Riley called a few hours later. That doorstep seemed good. Don't engage emotionally. Everything you're doing reinforces the narrative that she acted first, and you're simply responding. Feels cold, I admitted. Cold is better than foolish, he said. That night, the house felt strange. I walked from room to room, touching the edges of a life that was now half empty but honest. The dining table where we'd spent our anniversaries. The living room where we'd argued over money vacations, kids we never had. She always said she felt trapped, like we were stuck in a routine. But what she called routine, I called commitment. Now she was learning what true freedom looked like: a locked door, a quiet house, and her name missing from every shared account. Before bed, I sat at my desk and reread the email again. 8 years of marriage distilled into 3 short paragraphs. I need space to figure out my life. The irony made me laugh under my breath, because now she had all the space in the world and no idea how to fill it. People think betrayal comes in loud, dramatic moments, shouting tears, slammed doors. But sometimes it arrives as an email with perfect grammar and polite punctuation. And sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't destruction, it's order, doing exactly what they asked for, word for word. So I closed the laptop, turned off my phone, and let the silence stretch. For the first time, it didn't feel empty. It felt earned. By Sunday morning, the house no longer felt foreign. The silence had weight, but not loneliness. It was the sound of stability, something I hadn't realized I'd been missing. I made breakfast, opened the blinds, and felt the air move differently, cleaner somehow. There was no one pacing behind me, no half-spoken complaint hanging in the kitchen. That peace lasted exactly until 10:37 a.m. when my phone buzzed, a message from Riley. Her attorney requested an emergency meeting tomorrow. Apparently she's having second thoughts. Second thoughts. The phrase almost made me laugh. When someone burns the bridge, they don't get to walk back across the ashes and call it a misunderstanding. Monday's meeting took place in the same glass-walled room. Mara looked worse this time, tired, pale eyes rimmed with sleeplessness. Her lawyer spoke first voice, soft and cautious. My client wants to clarify that she didn't intend to permanently dissolve the marriage. She was emotionally distressed. Riley remained calm. Her written statement used the words, "file for divorce." Those carry legal meaning. My client merely followed her stated decision. Mara turned to me. You could have called. You could have asked what I meant. You told me exactly what you meant, I said. And I finally listened. Her lawyer shuffled papers asking if we could pause legal proceedings while they explored reconciliation. Riley shook his head. We're already in motion. She can't undo a documented request for dissolution by simply changing her mind. The conversation ended the way all formal meetings do, with polite voices and cold eyes. When we left the room, she followed me into the parking lot. "This isn't who you are," she said. "Maybe not, but it's who I have to be to survive you." She stared at me silent, like she expected some soft landing. I gave her none. That evening, I grilled dinner again. I ate alone, watched the sun slide across the yard, and realized the difference between solitude and abandonment. One you choose, the other you survive. I was beginning to prefer the one I chose. Tuesday morning brought a new text from her. "Can we talk privately, just us?" I didn't answer. Riley had already warned me every word mattered now. Instead, I forwarded it to him. "Let me guess," he said. "She's realizing what divorce means when it stops being theoretical." He was right. By midweek, her tone shifted from confident to desperate. She left voicemails, each one shorter, softer. I deleted them all. Friday afternoon, an unknown number called. I answered, expecting another client at work. It was her attorney again. "We need to discuss some serious implications your wife didn't anticipate." "I'm listening," I said. Her initial email constitutes voluntary abandonment of the marital home. Combined with your swift financial separation, she's forfeited certain rights, specifically primary residency and joint control of assets. "That's her doing," I said. She didn't understand the legal impact. Then maybe she shouldn't have written it like a press release. He hesitated. "Could we meet to renegotiate the terms?" "Have your client contact my lawyer. Please, she's anxious." "She can be anxious in her sister's guest room," I said, and ended the call. When I told Riley, he sounded pleased. "Every attempt to fix her own mistake only makes your case stronger. Keep your distance." The next day, Mara appeared at the door again. I saw her through the window before she knocked, standing there trying to compose herself. She still looked like the same woman, but something was missing from her posture. Confidence, maybe, or control. When I opened the door, she tried a small smile. "We need to talk. You asked for space. Still giving it to you. I didn't mean for things to spiral like this. Then why did you send that email?" She opened her mouth, closed it, then whispered, "Because I thought you'd fight for me." That sentence landed heavier than I expected. "You wanted me to chase you," I said slowly. "I wanted to know if you still cared." By threatening to leave. She swallowed hard. "I just felt invisible." "So you made yourself disappear," I said. "Congratulations, it worked." Tears welled up, but I'd seen that performance before. She wanted to rewind everything to before the email, before the paperwork. But that was the point. Actions don't rewind. "Can I come in?" she asked. "You moved out. Remember foreseeable future, your words." Her voice broke. "You're being cruel." "No, just consistent." She stood on the porch, shaking slightly, waiting for me to change my mind. I didn't. Finally, she whispered, "This isn't what I wanted." "Then you shouldn't have treated our marriage like a game," I said. She walked back to her car, wiping her face. I didn't move until I heard the engine start and fade down the street. When I called Riley later, he told me I'd handled it perfectly. "She's showing confusion and emotional instability. It reinforces your narrative of responding reasonably to her actions." I didn't want to think in terms like narrative, but that's what it had become, our marriage now reduced to evidence and statements. That night I couldn't sleep. Not because I missed her, but because I finally saw how fragile everything had been. One person's impulse could dismantle 8 years of building. I poured a glass of water and looked out the window. The reflection staring back wasn't angry anymore, just steady, maybe a little tired, but grounded. She wanted space. I'd given her more than she ever imagined. And for the first time, I started to see what I could build inside it. Monday morning came with a calm that felt unnatural, the kind that usually arrives right before another storm. I was starting to believe maybe, just maybe, things were finally settling. Then Riley called. "Cole, you might want to sit down for this." That sentence never meant anything good. Her lawyer accidentally sent over discovery files meant for internal review, he said. "You should come to the office." When I arrived, he had a folder waiting, paper-clipped pages, screenshots, account statements. Each one carried a quiet kind of violence. The first was a credit card bill. Restaurants, hotels, bars, every charge neatly time-stamped within the same month she'd claimed to be staying with her sister. Riley slid the next page forward. Text logs. Dozens of messages with a number I didn't recognize. "Ryan," he said. "Co-worker from her old job. Transferred from Denver." I read the messages one by one. "I'm finally going to tell him this weekend. I can't keep pretending anymore. Are you sure divorce is complicated? I've already decided. Life's too short to stay in a boring marriage. I stared at that last line. Boring marriage. That's what she called 8 years of loyalty, of paying bills, of showing up every single day. Riley handed me another page hotel check-ins matching the same dates as those texts. She wasn't at her sister's. She was living her new life in trial mode, he said quietly. The later messages told the rest of the story. It's more complicated than I thought. Complicated? You said you were sure. I just need to handle this the right way. You're stringing me along. Call me when you've actually left him. The last message was from him, cold and final. No response from her. Riley tapped the folder. This explains her sudden attempt to reconcile. He walked away. I didn't feel rage, not yet. Just an odd sense of confirmation, like a gut instinct finally proving itself right. There's more, Riley continued. She opened a new account 3 weeks before her email. Transferred about $4,000 from your joint expenses into it. That's financial misconduct. I laughed once quietly. So she was funding her new freedom with our grocery money. He nodded. It's not theft in a criminal sense, but it strengthens your position for asset protection. I stared at the table for a long time. 8 years condensed into spreadsheets and screenshots. A marriage turned into metadata. Riley's voice softened. You handled this better than most. Most people lash out. You stayed calm. That's why she's unraveling. I nodded. I guess she thought she'd have someone waiting to catch her. Now she's realizing she burned both bridges, he said. When I left his office, the air outside felt heavier. The truth wasn't liberating. It was exhausting. That evening, my phone buzzed. A text from her. I know you're angry, but we can fix this. I typed slowly. Fix what exactly? Our marriage, our relationship, everything. Which one? The one with me or the one with Ryan? Seconds later, my phone rang. Her name flashed on the screen. I let it ring out. Then another text. I don't know what you're talking about. I sent a screenshot of her messages with him. Then silence. Then, where did you get those? That's private. So was our marriage, I replied. The calls started coming back to back. I turned off my phone. The next morning, Riley was already expecting me. We'll use this to close the divorce fast, he said. You have evidence of infidelity, premeditation, and financial deception. She can't claim it was an emotional mistake anymore. I asked, what should I expect next? He smiled without humor. A desperate woman learning what consequences feel like. He was right again. That evening, she showed up at my house. Same knock, same pleading tone, but this time her confidence was gone. You went through my private messages, she snapped. Your attorney provided them during discovery. Accidentally, I assume. Those messages are taken out of context. Really? Which context makes I can't keep pretending anymore sound better? She sat down on the front steps like she belonged there. How long have you known? Since yesterday morning. Are you going to use it in court? Depends on how reasonable you want to be. Her face fell. You'd really drag this out publicly. You dragged it into existence the moment you planned an affair instead of a conversation. She looked away. Ryan won't return my calls. Shocking, I said. Turns out he wasn't looking for a long-term commitment with a married woman. I made a mistake, she whispered. You made several, I said, planned ones. She started to cry again, the same pattern tears when cornered charm when in control. So there's no chance. There wasn't the moment you decided someone else was worth more than your vows. I never slept with him. You didn't have to, I said. You spent weeks preparing to. She stood up finally, her voice trembling. I really did love you. You loved what I provided, stability, safety, forgiveness, but not me. She flinched like the truth had a physical weight. Then she left. No door slam, no drama. Just quiet footsteps fading into the night. When she was gone, I called Riley. She's ready to negotiate, I said. He laughed softly. Perfect. You just took away her last illusion of control. I hung up and looked around the house again. Same furniture, same walls, but it felt like a different place. The difference wasn't what she took, it was what she revealed. The illusion had finally broken, and in the shards of it I could see the truth clearly. I hadn't lost a partner. I'd lost someone who had been pretending to be one. By Monday morning, the divorce mediation was set. After weeks of chaos, it felt strange to watch everything turn procedural, time slot, signatures, folders. Nothing emotional left. just paperwork marking the end of what used to be a life. She arrived 10 minutes late, looking smaller somehow, shoulders pulled in makeup, faded around tired eyes. Her lawyer carried a briefcase that seemed heavier than her confidence. When we sat across from each other, I realized how distant she already felt. The woman who once filled every inch of my life now looked like a stranger rehearsing lines for a role she'd already lost. Her attorney started, "My client acknowledges that mistakes were made. She acted under emotional distress, not out of malicious intent. We hope to pursue an amicable resolution." Riley didn't even blink. "We have documented proof of premeditation, financial misconduct, and communication with a third party before separation. My client is willing to be generous, but he will not accept a narrative that rewrites facts." Her hands trembled slightly. "Generous?" she asked quietly. "What does that mean?" "It means Riley said you keep your personal belongings and walk away from everything else." Her lawyer froze. "That's unreasonable." Riley slid a folder forward, receipts, messages, dates. "This is what unreasonable looks like." The room went silent except for the hum of the overhead vent. Finally, her attorney asked for a recess. They stepped outside for 20 minutes. When she came back, her mascara had smudged. "We're prepared to accept the simplified dissolution," her lawyer said flatly. "It took 2 hours to finalize everything. No yelling, no tears, just a woman signing away the last of her power with trembling fingers." When it was done, we stood in the parking lot under the gray afternoon sky. She looked at me like someone searching for mercy in a place that had none left. "I know you probably hate me," she said softly. I told her, "I just don't trust you. I know I ruined everything." "You didn't ruin it," I said. "You chose something else. And now you're living with that choice." She bit her lip. "I don't know what I'm going to do." "You're going to figure it out," I said. "Like adults do when they make adult decisions. I don't have anywhere to go. That's not my problem to solve anymore." She hesitated. "If I had been honest from the start, told you I was having doubts instead of planning everything behind your back, would you have fought for us?" I thought about it for a moment. "If you'd been honest, maybe. But now I know who you really are when things get hard. You lie, you scheme, you look for exits instead of solutions." Tears filled her eyes, but I didn't flinch. "So this is really it," she whispered. "It ended the day you decided another man was worth destroying your marriage for." She nodded slowly and walked away, her heels echoing across the concrete. I watched her go until she turned the corner out of sight, out of everything that mattered. That night, I sat in my driveway with the engine off the radio silent. My mind was clear for the first time in months. No what-ifs, no maybes, just a simple truth: I'd done everything I could. Riley called later to wrap up the final details. "It's official," he said. "She forfeited all claims. You're free to move on." "How do you feel?" "Relieved," I said. "Tired, but relieved." "Good. Remember this lesson, Cole. People will tell you who they are. You just have to believe them the first time." For the first time, I laughed. A real laugh. Short, rough, but honest. The next few weeks passed quietly. I started sleeping through the night again. I went back to the gym, cooked for myself, reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years. Every day felt like reclaiming a small piece of the man I used to be before I started shrinking myself to keep someone else comfortable. 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized, I heard through a neighbor that she'd lost her job. Apparently, word had spread at the office about her Denver guy. HR had called it downsizing, but everyone knew better. Her sister called me soon after. "She's not doing well," she said. "No job, no savings, no place to stay." "That's unfortunate," I said. "Can't you show her a little compassion? She's learned her lesson." "I am showing compassion," I replied, "by not letting her make the same mistake twice." The line went quiet. Then her sister sighed. "She really did love you, you know." "No," I said softly. "She loves security. There's a difference." After I hung up, I realized that was the real end. Not the signatures, not the meeting, but that quiet acceptance that nothing could be salvaged. Sometimes people only learn by losing what they took for granted. And sometimes peace looks like a man sitting alone in his kitchen, eating dinner in silence and realizing that silence isn't punishment anymore. It's freedom. Thank you for listening to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Also, leave a comment below to share your thoughts on what happened. Take care.